Good evening and welcome to the 2021 Police Committee meeting. In your mailboxes and in your emails, I gave you the traffic crash reports, the 2020 statistical summary, the chaplain's reports, and then the copy of the Harrison Press ad. And so what I'll do, the traffic crash report, you can look at that at your leisure. Harrison Civil Service, as many of you know, our budget permits 22 sworn officers this year. We're currently at 21. We've had a vacancy since last year. The budget does permit it. However, we have exhausted the eligibility list. The two people that were on it for hire last year, when we contacted them, both declined and said they had no interest, and we had already interviewed everyone else on the list. So with that, we have to give a new test for entry-level police officer to have somebody to interview so we can hopefully hire. And that test has been set for February 20th of this year. The ad will go in the Harrison Press starting tomorrow. So if you know of anyone who's a certified police officer looking for a good job, we are hopefully going to be hiring after we get a list of eligible candidates after February 20th. Current staffing is at 21 sworn officers. Again, we are budgeted for 22, and hopefully we'll be able to fill this vacancy. The statistical overview, I sent that to Shannon and also to the finance director and gave them hard copies. You can look at that also at your leisure. The only thing I really want to comment on tonight is that in addition to the heroin overdose information that was provided, we had 15 additional overdoses that occurred that did not involve heroin, but they involved either fentanyl or a combination of fentanyl and methamphetamine. So I just wanted you to be aware of that when you look through the statistical summary. Fourth quarter chaplain's report and the 2020 summary from the chaplain are in your mailboxes, and I also emailed them to you. Even with COVID being as prevalent as it was, he was able, as our chaplain, to safely perform his duties. He did limit what he normally does for us, made all of the emergency responses, but with COVID restrictions, safety, he did a total of over 100 hours of volunteer work for us. He's also the police chaplain for the Hamilton County Police Association SWAT team, and he does respond on SWAT callouts for services with them also. We had an emergency purchase that occurred over the holidays. Our 75-gallon water heater went out. It was 11 years old. The water department had put a new expansion tank on it last year, hoping that that would keep it going. It died on us. Small flooding didn't damage anything. Echo Plumbing, $1,866.40 later, we have hot water again. Makes it better taking a shower here. If you can recall from the last council meeting, the SQL server situation that we have, Tri-State Computer Wizards they're in the process of the updates. Tomorrow, everything will be completed. COVID-19 pandemic update. All officers currently, all 21, are COVID-free. There are no quarantines at this time. It seems like every other week or so, we'll have a 3 or a 4 day quarantine until we get test results back. In 2020, we had a total of 4 officers that tested positive for COVID. They did quarantine at home. None required hospitalization. All had speedy and full recoveries with no after effects and returned to full duty. We did have 7 officers and 1 police clerk elect to take the Madura vaccine. 8 of us took that first shot. If all goes well and as scheduled on the 25th, the fire department will give us that second vaccine shot. The 1860 tap room and bottle shop, last year, they did a fundraiser for us back in March, the first month of COVID, and for the SRO utility vehicle. And they emailed me this morning and they would like to do it again in February for the police department. That would be the focus on the SRO vehicle again. And currently, last year we raised $4,405 of that needed $30,000 to get the SRO utility vehicle that would be on the new police or the new school campus up at the high school, the junior school, and the new school buildings that they're building now. So that's what I had to cover tonight. So if anyone has any questions or comments.
I'm sorry, Chief, you said they raised 4,000 and
Yep.
some change?
Yeah, last year, total donations that we collected were $4,405 and some change. That's what we have currently towards that $30,000 expenditure.
Well, that's not a bad start for a COVID year.
I'm happy. I'm happy with it. If it was less, it's what it is. It's going to be tough this year with COVID, not knowing how the economy is going to break, and with the new presidency, what exactly the impact of business is or isn't going to be. But it's great that starting in February, 1860s starting to help us out again. So that's a good sign.
Definitely. Hey, I have another question for you real quick. Recently, since we've had 3 nice days in the past 90, I had somebody reach out to me. I guess they take their kids down to the playground down at the community center.
Yes, sir.
And on a couple occasions, cars go zipping through there faster than they should. How much longer is that going to be open through the community center?
That's a question for the mayor.
The answer is when the kids go into the new building, that gate, we are going to place a brand new gate there. We took the old post and everything down. A gate like is going to the back of the community center will be installed at that time, and it'll be locked unless we have an event.
I knew we had had talked about the other gate, but I was just wondering if there was a timeline, if you had heard anything from the school or what our thoughts were.
They're supposed to have students start there in August. So right now we do that to allow for the buses to offload on South Elm, and it takes the traffic off of there for the people returning from dropping their kids off going back towards Campbell Road, so they can come around make a loop, come back around through the community center and go into the neighborhood. When there's the new schools in place, the buses will offload in front of the school, and we won't have to worry about kids being offloaded on a bus right there.
There's also a lot of construction workers who park at the community center, coming in and out of the side, both George Street and the side gate. But there is a lot of traffic. I'm there at least twice a day, if not 3 times a day. There is no real signage. The street department, with the mayor's approval, I could request slow children playing sign or even a speed limit sign. But right now, there's currently nothing posted reference speed in that area until you're already on George Street going out, but nothing around the playground area.
You think we could put a couple orange barrels out with signs? Do we have any signs? Obviously, it's 30 degrees outside right now, may not, but even on
tomorrow and find out.
Yeah, just something temporary. You don't have to post a or put a post up or anything, but just a thought. I thought I'd bring it up. And
Yes, sir. I'll make sure to talk to Jim Leslie. We'll get something up.
I go through that lot fairly often, Ryan, and I would say about every 10th or 12th time I go through in the afternoon, there is a police officer in the over by the dog park where he's not obvious, watching the traffic speed.
yeah, and that's what I expressed to him. I told him, I was like, really, we try to have a police presence at random times. Obviously, they need to be other places when needed, but I let him know that we do have a police presence down there just to try to slow traffic because we're aware of the concern. But I told him I'd bring it up and see if there's anything that we can do.
Yeah. Since the gates were opened, I've been asked many times, and my answer's been consistent. When the new school opens, that gate closes.
Yeah. I know we've talked about it. That's good. So,
hey, Chief, can I get clarification on, you mentioned, and I apologize, you probably said it very clearly and I just didn't hear it right. The 15 additional ODs, was that for like a quarter, a month, or year? What was that?
That was for the year.
The year.
And they weren't overdose deaths. They were overdose.
Okay.
And they were either fentanyl or a mix of fentanyl and methamphetamine. But it's funny because in Hamilton County, heroin spikes for a little while, and then fentanyl, and then methamphetamine rears back its ugly head. Methamphetamine has always been a drug of choice in Hamilton County. It's always been readily available. There's never been a problem getting it. Heroin sidelined it for a while. Fentanyl certainly is showing up a lot more than it was. But I mean, drugs are a problem, not just in Harrison, but in Hamilton County and in the tri-state. That isn't going to go away. I think some of it got worse due to COVID. It's not good to have a bunch of addicts all with nowhere to go and nothing to do but think about how to get more drugs or get drugs. So it is a problem. It is an issue. We are doing the best that we can. We do have one officer assigned full-time to the drug task force. If you look through the statistical summary, and it's a law enforcement sensitive report, but I gave the mayor a recent report, and every year Harrison is one of the highest communities of activity for either the residents of a drug dealer where they live or for where they were selling from. So we're just in a bad spot right on 74. There's a lot of customers in the area, always have been. But the drug task force does a great job helping us do what we can with drug sales. The problem with drug addicts is just like with alcoholism. You don't have to go to a bar to get drunk. You can do it at home where no one can see you. And the majority of the addicts aren't walking in the streets. They're not robbing and stealing. They're semi-functional or with a relative inside someone's home. So it's tough. But I wanted to make sure in that summary that council realized that it's more than just heroin overdoses and heroin. And I will do a better job in the monthly reports, making sure that they're separated. I don't want to give anyone false illusions about what kind of drug problem we do or don't have. So
Much appreciated. Thank you.
yes, sir.
Hey, Chief, at the February meeting, we have an organization that's going to make a donation to the police department, and I'm sure that's not earmarked for anything special, so that may or may not be something you want to put towards the Gator.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Right now, departmentally, our needs, we're looking real good through the budget, and anything extra that I'd get this year, I really want to push towards the Gator, hoping to make that realistic. I think especially with just 2 SROs that we're going to have available, that Gator would really make their use much more effective and efficient. than having vehicles that aren't, they'll move around the campus much more quickly. So.
Hey, Chief, I'd be happy. Our 2 years are going to be up with Firehouse subs from the last grant we get. Like in October, I'd be happy to sit down with you and help you write that, or at least walk you through that process. That's where we got our gator from. So
yeah, no, that would be great. I know we talked originally when we first started talking, but you had told me that, you know, there was that time limit that we had to wait. So, and I was hoping that we'd be able to get donations to already have it before that October date would come. But if we get to that point and we still don't have it, I'd love to sit down and get any help I could to put. Firehouse Subs does a great job supporting public safety, and I'd love to take advantage of them. So.
okay.
Anybody have anything else? Okay, that's all I've got for police committee then.
Thanks, Chief.
Appreciate you, Chief.
Thanks.
If we want to jump, I don't know if anybody's got anything for civil defense. I was contacted by Mark Lewis. He's going to be the representative for the township. I sent him the link to this Zoom meeting, so he should be joining us. So we're going to need to hold off on fire committee a little bit.
Yeah, township got a great pickup there.
Yeah.
They sure did.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when you move out into the township, there'll probably be a trustees race happening.
Yeah.
Now, Mark's very good people, obviously. Chief, you want me to text him and let him know that we are done if he wants to join now?
Sure, that's fine. He implied that he was going to join us during police committee, but obviously that doesn't appear that happened.
Darn township people.
Hard to trust.
I mean, I think clicking on that link is pretty straightforward. He seems like he's pretty smart, so hopefully he's not having computer issues.
This would be much more fun if he was joining and hearing all this.
Right.
I'm sure it's recorded. You could probably go back and watch it, right?
Yeah.
He could be eating dinner, Ryan.
I can empathize. I ran in the door, grabbed everything downstairs and brought it up. Of course, I had an appointment over by Kings Island. It was like my worst nightmare, especially after sitting in my room in my house for so long. I almost had anxiety from driving across 275. But I will say, I don't know how people do this all the time, because it felt good to socialize.
Yeah.
You know, those computer dorks like certain people down in the bottom down there.
I'm on the top center on my screen.
No, okay, top center on your screen. You knew I was looking at you, though. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say computer dorks, those computer-minded individuals.
Oh, he's apparently ignoring my text. So.
Thinking you need to break the bank to earn a college degree?
Trade school. Hey, Matt, you might want to take him out of your friends category on your phone.
Mark will not be joining us. He got called away.
He actually just responded to me and said, sorry, he got called away. He's going to be unable to attend.
Okay. I'll make sure. Have you, Chief, have you heard anything from him? Do you have a email contact for him?
For Mr. Lewis?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I have his Harrison Township email. I can forward that
You're
on.
talking to us, Chief. We can't hear you. Or at least I can't.
I can hear you.
I could hear you.
Yeah, I have his Harrison Township email. I can forward that on to you.
If you don't mind. That way I can just email him.
Yeah, I'll send that to you in an email.
That's fine. That's fine. Just we'll have our meeting. You get it to me later.
All right. Welcome to Fire Committee. Glad to see everybody here. Mrs. Wilson, welcome aboard. I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, as well as you.
Everybody should have received at least the committee members should have received the December report, and then all of council should have received the 2020 activity report for the entire year. So second busiest year in the history of our department. 2018 was actually the busiest by 21 runs, and the majority of those were actually fire runs. So EMS between this year and 2018, the difference was 2. December was extremely busy, as you could tell by looking at the report. I think on the revenue side, it's looking good too. Is that correct, Ms. Finance Director?
Correct.
Yeah, November and December both really helped out at the final part of the year for as far as revenue. Just kind of a follow up with what Chief Lindsay said. So one of the things, if you'll see in the report, you'll see where the EMS side in the one chart, it'll show overdoses. It looks like it's trending similar to, let me get to that page, I apologize. Kind of trending with some of the other things in there. The unfortunate thing is we can only, all of our information comes over from the CAD. So there are times where we get dispatched or it'll come in as a non-breather. It doesn't come in as an overdose, and we don't determine it's an overdose until we get there. So we can't go in and change the actual dispatch. We can just write it in the disposition or in the narrative. So those numbers or that chart doesn't necessarily reflect true overdoses. So the ones that we're aware of where we actually administered Narcan in 2020, there were 53 occasions for that. That number is a little bit higher per Captain Newscable as far as overdoses. Not every overdose is administered Narcan, and then that doesn't necessarily, that number doesn't reflect what the police see. That doesn't involve us because they don't always necessarily have to call us out for suspected overdoses or people that ingest a drug unless they think they're harmful to themselves or that they could go down that path, and they'll call us to just check them out. So I would agree. The whole point of that discussion was just to reiterate what Chief Lindsay said, that we're starting to see some uptick of overdoses again. Related to COVID, people being out of work, people being stuck at home. That's probably all part of it. But the same thing that, like Chief Lindsay said, we're seeing more of those at home or like at hotels and whatnot. Not seeing a whole lot in vehicles anymore, which is a good thing. I would rather, if they're going to overdose they're somewhere safe where they're not driving around and can't hurt or injure somebody. The other thing I just want to bring to your attention too is the amount of mutual aid that we're receiving on the EMS side, specifically from Crosby Township. So I don't know if they're not sharing that with their trustees, but I would imagine if they get wind of that, we may hear from them a little bit. And it's something. So what we've done on our end to try to help alleviate some of that, and the numbers reflect in on the bottom of the main cover page that you have, where it talks about the station breakdown. You can see the station 57 is a lot busier, and that's where our backup medic has been. So we flip-flop that around, which is going to end up it could result for us where that third out squad might end up being the fire inspector, Matt Nichols, and myself, or it could come down to Steve Plackey and I just to try to get a medic unit on the road. Because the other issue we deal with is that 25% of the time our runs are overlapping. So, and it never fails when we get to that third and fourth run deep, or that third out squad run doesn't never happen when we're available, which is what that number is impacting. So again, we're trying to move some people around and move equipment around to see if we can help offset that a little bit. Of course, Crosby's people are not complaining because it keeps them busy, but I don't want to have to rely on them to provide EMS to our citizens. So if you want to look through that, if you have any other additional questions as you look through the report, please send me an email and I'll respond as promptly as I can. Moving on to the med account and fire recovery reports. We budgeted on the EMS side for med account EMS. We budgeted $460 for revenue. Currently, we're right now at $489. That report's only through December 1st, so that number I would hope it's going to be a significant increase based on the numbers that we've seen from December for EMS calls. And then the MVA billing on the fire recovery, we budgeted $40,000. We're at $30,956. A little under on the fire recovery side, but we made up for it on the med account side. So, and I think, like I said, there's more revenue that's going to come in that's going to be reflected on that. We exceeded that projected revenue for both of those items. The contract invoices, I sent you an email to let you know we sent those out for the services for Dearborn County, West Harrison, Harrison Township, Indiana, and Harrison Township, Ohio. Mr. Grubbs, just to give you just to kind of prepare you for later on this year, Dearborn County's contract expires at the end of 2021. That's always a 3-year with them. West Harrison is good through 2022. And Harrison Township, Indiana is an annual contract. So every year we redo another one with them. Harrison Township, Indiana again. Harrison Township, Ohio, the new portion of that JET agreement started this year. That contract runs good, or that portion of that agreement runs through 2030. And this is the first year that they're obligated for that $40,000 contribution to the capital reserve fund.
Yes, sir.
All those were sent out on the 13th, and as she always does, the financial know when she receives all that information. COVID vaccines, we were very, I guess, fortunate. I had a deadline that I had to submit a number to Hamilton County Public Health by, and I had a lot of, as you can imagine, people that were really skeptical. A lot of I'm not sure's. So I had some definitive no's and a lot of I'm not sure's. I asked for the number, and when I talked to public health, they said go ahead and ask for the ones that say they're unsure, and then if push comes to shove, you can find somebody. So we had a lot of people back out at the last minute. Even I think the day before, the Sunday before we administered the first dose, I still had 2 people backing out that way. So we were able to get 25 people within the city vaccinated. I think there was 10 here at the firehouse. Chief Lindsay had 8 combined at his place. And then all the department heads were vaccinated. The mayor was vaccinated. And we had one other within the community center, Mrs. Monavon. At the last minute, I had somebody back out. I think Mr. Grubbs, I even spoke to you at that time and asked if we thought of any council would be interested in doing that. And when I went back to the directors, because the thing we did, I think in each department was cover first and second in charge of the departments. If I'm out, Steve Plackey was vaccinated as well, even though he already had COVID, he was still good to get that. But Steve can kind of run the financial side here, if you will. I think Chief Lindsay set himself up the same way. Kathy, I believe, did the same thing. So we were very fortunate, I guess, that some of the guys and gals here backed out, and we were able to get those people vaccinated. With that being said, the second dose, I received an email today, is supposed to be here tomorrow. If it does show up tomorrow, we'll administer the second dose on the 25th. And the reason we're waiting until the 25th, we have a 3-day or a 10-day window, 3 days post or I'm sorry, 3 days pre, 7 days post of the vaccine. The 25th is actually the 28th day, and they prefer you to do it right on the 28th day. So provided that shows up tomorrow, I'll send out a schedule to everybody, letting know their time frame and their time slot. We've got, once we take the vial out of the refrigerator, if you will, and draw up that first dose, each vial has 10 doses in it. We have 6 hours to get rid of the entire vial before we have to discard it. So within the city, we have 25. Crosby Township, because we originally asked for 24, Crosby Township Fire had 6 personnel that were interested in the vaccine. So they gave us 3 vials equaling 30 doses. Crosby also had somebody at the last minute back out, which allowed us to administer another dose internally to one of ours. So with that being said, Monday's going to be a busy day here, and we'll be doing vaccines. I've got a couple of responses. We're going to try to accommodate everybody the best we can and spread those out. So I'm not aware of any. I have not heard from any of the other department heads that there were any major complications with the first dose. Other than everybody, I think, pretty much had a sore arm just from getting a IM shot. So,
yeah, I hear that's the biggest problem. My brother was talking about being a side sleeper and not being able to sleep on his arm. So I think that was probably the biggest side effect that I heard from really anybody, other than I guess just some mild things, but it wasn't anything major from all the people that I've talked to that got it or heard from them. So,
yeah, all the opportunities that Steve Plackey had to take my picture with that needle in my arm, he took the worst opportunity he could and blasted it all over social media. And
I started laughing.
Right. It's funny because my son called me that day and most of I think he works for Cincinnati Fire. One of his officers seen it and called and said, "Your dad looks like he's really in a lot of pain. You might want to call and check on him." And I'm like, no, I literally turned my head for a second for him to stick that needle in, and Steve took the picture, but it wasn't that bad. So if whatever you took out of that picture, it literally wasn't bad at all. So with that, in 2020, we had 18 personnel that were positive with COVID. One of those included the administrative staff. The rest were fire and EMS personnel that work shifts. I have 2 that are coming back tomorrow. Those are the last 2 that have been out that contracted, and we've been very fortunate. I mean, it's created some challenges for staffing, but we've been very fortunate that we didn't have to literally wipe out an entire staff. It seemed like they got them in groups of 3 to 4, and then, right after treating a patient, the patient was really sick from the information that we got, and we were able to track back to who we think they contracted it from. So anyway, hopefully we don't have any more of that, and I'll keep you updated if we do. But like I said, a total of 18 employees were positive here. Moving on to number 5, the full-time process. We had started that this past Saturday was the actual physical agility test. We started with 6. We are down to 3. 1 did not show up, 2 did not pass. So this Thursday, they will be their EMS skills testing will occur. That will be with our medical director, our EMS captain, and our training lieutenant. We'll run them through some mock scenarios, and then our medical director will evaluate their EMS skills and then write a recommendation on it's a pass or fail scenario too. So it'll either pass or fail. If they pass, she'll write a recommendation based on her opinion on their skill performance. So then with that, after that's completed, next Thursday, the 4th of February, the mayor, myself, and the union president will interview the remaining candidates, and then the mayor will ultimately make a decision on who we're going to move forward with. This is the replacement for Dennis Helcher when he retired in November. So this will put us back at our full staff of full-time employees. Number 6, staffing, just to kind of give you an update, we stayed with the 8 for the first part of the year to kind of see how things balanced out with the changeover for the first 28 days. So starting on the 24th, we'll go back to 10 without backfilling for vacation and sick and whatnot. So majority of the month, we're at 9 and 10 every day. And we'll see where it goes from there. But the other piece of that, I have that long-term funding there, just as I'm going to keep bringing that up because here we are in year 3 of this levy. And I think we need to have some discussions and make some decisions on how we're going to move forward, because it's just a matter of time, before the schools open up again and we have an influx of people. The new nursing home is just a month or 2 away from opening up, and that's going to have an impact on both police and fire. And then obviously we got more development going on. So, I know.
Well, that's it. Between the expansion of the city territory-wise, the growth in the school district, and our 22 police officers being spread between all the schools, and our firefighters running all over the place. I think it's been kicked down the road for 3 years. And of course, last year didn't help anything because now we're completely unclear. I don't want to say unclear. Just we're in a different realm finance-wise. Based on the revenues that came in and didn't come in. So it's trying to understand that piece so we can provide good, clear information to the community.
Right.
So.
Well, I will, I guess, leave it at that. I agree with you. I think we do have to start having some discussions because before we know it, that levy's going to be on us. And you know, if we come to the conclusion that a levy is the best thing to do, then we probably need to reevaluate how much we're asking for and then see if we can move forward that way.
Well, I still think if you look at the funding, you have 900,000 coming in for half of a percentage credit, and get rid of the.
Apologize for that. That just
that threw me off.
We're getting dispatched in the background, so unfortunately, I can't turn that off.
Yeah. But then you look at the income or the property tax. I think it's better for the vast majority getting rid of the property tax levy. But it's just trying to get the proper information out there so we don't get a lot of misinformation bouncing around. So I don't know. We got to have our first meetings and see what's going on, but we all need to be on board. So we deliver a uniform message across the community and then get out in front of everybody.
Whichever decision's made at the end, have all the information about the other options and give that out with the justification of the final decision. You know, whether it's levy, tax, credit, whatever route it is, we have to evaluate all of them and then get all that information out and say, logically, this was the best decision.
Excuse me. You know, it's doing it. It's
challenged.
Yeah, it's doing it in a way, especially in this very tense political environment that we're in, trying to keep it non-political. You know, it's providing the information and straightforward to the point and moving forward with it. So, and like I've said a million times, I'll do whatever the voter wants, but we also have to make decisions best for the city in the long term. So
I don't see how safety can be political.
Well,
that call just came in. They don't know who's on the other end.
Yep. We know that.
All right. Well, we can address that in one of our next meetings or so. And the only other thing I really had was, and I'm just assuming, but I wanted to put it there to make sure we were going to still continue to meet same date or same nights and times for fire committee.
Yes. Unless somebody has a problem with it. I say we keep it. Chief Lindsay, you're good with tonight, aren't you?
Yes, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, I just say we continue to follow the police and keep it all together.
Are we going to try and move to in person next month or no, Mayor?
Beginning with the BZA meeting on the 27th of this month, we'll be back in person. That's everything. Committee meetings, council meetings, planning commission.
Thank you.
We are not going to be opening the meeting rooms up to the public yet, though. That's just added burden to the staff at the community center to sanitize after the meetings.
That's all I had. The only other thing I guess I'll follow, it kind of hits on COVID again. And the only reason this comes up is Doug Witzkin, the retired chief from Green Township, runs the portion of the EMA for COVID supplies. So just as a reminder, he just happened to be here today. I thanked him for last week. He provided some cleaning supplies for the community center. And he just wanted me to remind the department heads and the elected officials, if we need any cleaning supplies within the city for any of the departments, everybody should have a link, or at least his email, and then he can send you a link. You can just fill the form out and then go pick all that stuff up in Blue Ash. So they've got a bunch of it available. I'm sure, Grumps, you've heard those conversations for Nick Crosley too. So again, if it's difficult to find, I mean, obviously if you see it out there and you want to pick it up, any cleaning supplies, they encourage you to do so also, but they have quite a bit of it at the warehouse. So at least ask there first if you want to save a little bit of money on the budget side.
Have you heard anything on distribution, Chief, to general public around here?
For
The COVID shot?
the COVID shot?
Yeah.
The only thing I know that they started today was that 80 and over phase. You can sign up. They haven't really reached out to us. They've talked a little bit about potentially opening up pods. I think if the Kroger's pharmacies start to get overwhelmed, you're going to see that probably happen. It's not a quick process. You have to monitor. You know, when we administered those shots, we were fortunate that I had 3 paramedics that we could set aside to kind of do that. So one was drawing up, the other one was verifying the dose amount, one was administering, and then we had everybody that got a shot had to stay here for at least 15 minutes to be monitored, make sure it didn't have any adverse reactions. I don't know how they're going to pull that off at the Kroger pharmacy.
Oof.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about that. And I guess I don't understand why they chose an inside facility like that, where all of the, you know, the most vulnerable people in our community are going to have to pass everybody inside. I mean, the one common theme that I've heard, my parents are not quite 80, but they're approaching there quickly, and so are my in-laws. You know, that's the piece that scares them, is going to the store to pick up groceries, because you never know who you're going to come in contact with. And here we are sending those same people to that location to get vaccinated. So the only people that have really reached out to us, we've had a little bit of conversation with the schools. The nurses are going to use the nurses in Southwest schools, and we were asked if we would be able to assist them. And I just told them if the need is there, to reach out again, we will make something happen to get them vaccinated. So outside of that, we're prepared if they ask us to open the pod. I've had some conversations with Joe Moss, and Steve Plackey has talked to some people within the pod that we can make that happen. So, but right now it's really in the hands of public health.
Yeah.
How they want to distribute it.
Do you know how many shots were dispersed today?
I don't, they haven't provided that number yet. No.
FYI, if you have elderly people that you know that are interested in getting the shot, I've heard that the easiest way to get it scheduled the quickest is if you happen to have a MyChart account locally here. If that's how you get your records and all that kind of stuff, supposedly from the MyChart, you can actually apply to get the shot from there, and it happens pretty quick. So.
Yeah, I haven't heard that yet, but that makes sense that you could log in and request that. No different than requesting an appointment or a prescription refill. So, and even with the MyChart, just, you know, for what it's worth, while we're talking about that, if you know anybody that's getting tested, that's the easiest way to get your results back too, is through your MyChart accounts.
Yep.
We had guys and gals that were waiting, you know, several days to get their results, and then the other people that were tested at the same facility were getting them the next day because they were inside that MyChart account. So,
Well, I will go ahead and admit I went and got a COVID test today, even though I swore I never would. And it was a gentle tickling of the brain. So, but I got the results back already. I needed them because I'm going to go visit my son. And we needed to make sure that we were negative within 72 hours of arriving to see him. So we all decided to go get the test, and I guess it wasn't as bad as getting my brain punctured like early in this year, but
did they go all the way back your nasal cavity, or just stay right in?
No, just right up in the front.
So I've seen them. They've done the first one I had done. They went all the way back in the nasal cavity, and I was in my truck, and I couldn't get away from her because she pinned my head against the headrest. So I had to lay there and take it, really. And then they've done the nasal swab on me a few times, and also they did a throat swab too. So I think it really just depends on who you or where you get it at on what test they're going to give you.
Well, I probably won't have to blow my nose for about a month and a half, but it's done, and they all came back negative. So
That's good.
Good.
That's all I have. Unless anybody has anything else for me.
no, sir. Thank you,
Mhm.
Matt. You have anything for civil defense?
No, I guess I'm curious if either chief has any thoughts about civil defense as far as with everything that's going on and whatever. Is there anything extra we think we should do this year to maybe be better prepared for anything?
Personally, I don't think in a pandemic, especially with what the levels in Hamilton County are, I don't think we should be planning anything that involves any even semi-large groups of people. So right now, I think we just ought to focus on what we're doing and how we're doing it. We had talked last year about, I believe, doing a pod deployment.
Right.
And to me, what would make the most sense if we're going to do something would be doing that. The only thing you got to weigh into that is getting a bunch of people together who you might make sick. So, and I don't know how quickly this vaccinations is or isn't going to happen this year, but at the rollout that I'm seeing, I don't think it's going to be until summer before they get even a small amount of people vaccinated. They claimed on the radio that 80 and older could get their shots, but they also said that all of the shots for those people have already been assigned in Southwest Ohio, and that there isn't any available for anyone. So I registered my parents with public health, but I'm trying to find, there's rumors flying around that CVSA is registering people, and you have to find out, you may have to register 4 or 5 places just to try to get them a shot. My parents are both in their mid 80s. So it's kind of a wait and see game.
So I can tell you that if they have a friend that works in the facility that's giving the shots and someone's a no-show, they can get a text and show up and get a shot.
Right.
Take that person's spot. They're not going to waste a shot. I mean, that's just what's going on. There was a guy that I heard today. He said I was in Kroger's on the other, over on the Western Hills area, and the pharmacist saw him and knew him and said, "Hey, John, have you had a COVID vaccination?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Well, I had cancellation." He says, "I got 2 doses." And he says, "My wife's out in the car. Let me text her."
Wow. Is Harrison Kroger's giving shots?
I don't know.
I haven't heard yet either.
I haven't heard anything about any pharmacy in Harrison.
Now, I talked to Walgreens, and they haven't gotten anything yet. So if Kroger's is doing it, I don't get me wrong. I like Kroger's for my wife to go to, but for me, I prefer just looking at it from the outside. So,
Well, they're only producing 4 million vaccinations a month by the Pfizer and Moderna. And that doesn't cover very many people. Now, once they get production ramped up a little quicker, and maybe the other 2, Johnson and AstraZeneca, approved, maybe they can get it up to 10 million or 15 million a month. They can really do something, but 4 million doses a month, like a drip in a bucket.
well, I think it's just be patient. That's why I was asking, because I hadn't seen anything come out of the EMA. I am supposed to have a EMA board meeting on Monday. I'll probably take it on my drive back from seeing my boy, but if I get anything, I'll let you know. Matt, did you want to cover anything else with civil defense? Ask anything else?
No, I agree with Chief. I think we ought to just keep doing what we're doing for now.
Okay. With that, it's just council at this point.
I guess
Go
I'll
ahead and adjourn.
see you at the other meeting.
Yep.
Have a good night.
See you guys.
Night.
Take care, guys.